Hey, what's going on everyone? This is JoeYoursTruly back with another video, and today we'll be going over the tier list for version 0.5. That's only my opinion, so just again as a disclaimer, this is just my personal opinion. At the end of the day, some stuff I may have some little bias in it, but I try my best to try to be as kind of unprejudiced as I can with this tier list. It's just really unfortunate we also don't have access to the public API just yet, so we don't have the raw data we can look at, so we can kind of evaluate these different like picks and whatnot. And so another disclaimer is this is gonna be a kind of solo queue kind of tier list. So I'm kind of been consistently in the rank top like 100s on the solo duo or like whatever kind of leaderboards that Mesa has been putting out weekly, so I'll be kind of just doing based on that. So some of the picks that I say it's not as great, probably is a lot better in the low elo, but we don't have that high elo, low elo, like what that looks like without the public API. So I'm just kind of going based on what I mostly experienced myself for the most part. So going into the first hero, we're gonna be going over Countess, and I believe she's one of the best performers in my opinion. There may be a little bias because she's one of my favorite characters to carry with, but I think she's seriously in the right hands. She has like some very powerful kit to be able to carry game solo. So not on the mid lane, she's pretty good. I would say like she's very good at like a lot of the mid lane picks. Like she kind of just one of those characters that always scares really well. She can really outscale most people in the game. I think the only one that can sort of match her scaling is Severa, but other than that, she's a very monster of a scaler. But her early game is not that bad. The hard part about Count's early game in both the mid lane, especially in the off lane, is just to survive in CS, because without your full kit online, without 6 especially, you can be pretty easy to kind of be bullied a lot. And not only that, you don't have that much actual escape potential. The only way you can kind of get out of ganks is by juking people with your Q, but even so, it's not as reliable as escape as like a Fame-Out Blink, for example. She's very easy to usually punish in both the off lane, mid lane kind of pick. So you really want to be picking her. To be able to play her well, you need to have very good macro sense of when you're going to be getting ganked and be able to really control the wave well. If you don't have good control of the wave, I think your early game is really going to be hard. But if you're someone that has good macro and someone that has good control of the wave most of the time, and then I think Counts is a very excellent T1 pick for being able to carry all your games. Next up is Crunch, and he's also gonna be a tier 1. So this when I say best for performance, I'm thinking of like best performance either in the world or in like kind of like the archetype. So like Callus, I think she's one of the best assassins in my opinion, and Crunch is kind of like one of the best duelist bruisers in my opinion. And the reason he just wins 1v1 straight up, like his whole kit is pretty much all centered around taking those 1v1 engagements. So him in the offlane is a huge menace, because in this current like roster of offlaners, he probably is one of the most consistent picks in the offlane. He doesn't really have a super bad matchup. He has annoying matchups like against the Steel or the Grux, but he just eventually gets 6 and he can absolutely decimate these offlaners. So he does kind of fall off in terms of the mid lane game, only because he's not the greatest team fighter. He can't really fight 2-3 people at once. He really wants to take strictly those kind of 1v1 engagements. 1v2 is actually not that bad, but those big team fights, he kind of can struggle a bit. But the fact that his 1v1 potential just his like matchups is just so consistent, so good for him. He's just a huge monster in the offlane that can really kind of snowball out of control, because if you can win those team fights, you can just be a huge nuisance in your offlane. You can keep stealing enemy jungle. You can straight up invade the enemy jungle. That's kind of what you want to do. Instead of being at the team fights, you just want to hunt down people down, especially the junglers, so you can not only impact your offlane, but also you make the enemy jungler fall behind, because you just straight up win those 1v1s most of the time. Next up is Deca, and she is gonna be going into the tier 2. So she's a great pick overall. You can never go wrong with a Deca. I just think that in comparison to other supports in the game, she's not the tier 1 kind of support pick, but she's always been really solid at the tier 2 because of her stuns, her soaring potential, and just being able to really fit into almost any team comp essentially. So she's always just a very solid pick overall. Next up is Drongo, and he's actually going to be going into tier 1 for the ADCs. it's gonna be him and one other person that I think are the two best ADCs in the game right now, in my opinion. Of course, the reason why I think Drongo is one of the best ADCs is because he's a very consistent and safe like ADC. You get 6 and then you'll be able to, that 6 is a huge like ability to be able to like not only play safe, like you can put distance between you and the other opponent, which can be really good if they're hard engaging you. But also the fact that his 6 is a huge tool for being able to burst down people, so you can go really aggressive, almost play like an assassin, and use your 6 to finish them off and put some distance back towards your teammates, so you're not as deep anymore. But not only that, his Q is just very good. Like his Q can shut down a lot of people in particular. So like his Q, you can shut down a Crunch and Countess. Like both of these are very good T1 picks, and it's always really annoying from my experience going against a Drongo, because the Q can really mess you up. A Drongo that can use his Q really well and fight in that Q can really shut down a lot of people. Like you can shut down these people. A Gideon, you can shut down a Gideon if you're not going to choose to Bracer. So many people, so many assassins that like to dive on AC. You just pop down the Q and you just shut down entire kit, so they can't actually burst you down. It makes it easier for them to lock them down. It's because of his kit being able to play safe, have a lot of burst damage, but also shutting down a lot of different Predecessor heroes right now is the reason why I think Drongo is a tier 1 ADC. Next up, we're going to be going over Fei Mao, and I think he's actually going to be a great pick. So he's someone that's been struggling a lot, and like most of season 1 now. She's not until like about, what is it, 2 weeks ago on the big balance update that a bunch of assassin items got reworked, got changed, and all those really benefit Fei Mao, because his biggest issue has always been his mana consumption and not having a great power spike, at least in my opinion. So, and especially in the off lane, you can kind of see that the most before that big update. With a new update, you can build Mind Racer. You that alone can solve your mana issues and has a ton of really good mid to late game power spike with Mind Racer building that out. Also, Venom is extremely good on him, because I know Melody has always been kind of a strong item of Fei Mao jungle. I think you still want to do Melody first for the clears, but Melody's kind of not great in my opinion for the Fei Mao off lane. While it's like it doesn't, because the thing with Fei Mao is especially in the off lane, you're gonna be dueling a lot. You're not necessarily gonna be the assassinate people 100 really fast. So you need an item that can actually power spike your item, not necessarily be dependent on getting people low. And I think Venom really helps Fei Mao shine in the early game. So it's just assassin items. He feels honestly really great. Love him in the off lane, and he's definitely can be good in the jungle as well. Next up is the Fei, and she's also going to be a T2 pick. She's always someone that always been very deadly with the ultimate. It's so weird because there's a bit more items. Well, rather like there's a way to count a Fei ult, and that is just to cleanse it, right? And so now there's a new support quest 2 weeks ago that now cleanses her Fei ult. So technically she's been slowly getting hurt over time with these new items that can counter the Fei ult. But I still think she's a very good pick, because those cleanse usually have long cooldowns, the items effects have long cooldowns, and Fei's ultimate can have a low cooldown. So you may not be able to always get a really good pick because someone can cleanse it, but when they can cleanse it and you get a big ultimate off, they just get absolutely steamrolled. So I think her ultimate is still very strong, and it's the reason why she's always going to be a great pick, because that ultimate, it can be really seriously deadly in those big objective fights. Next up, we have Gadget, and she's also going to be a tier 2 pick. There's going to be a lot of tier 1, tier 2 picks, because I feel like most of the roster is very good right now. Like, I don't think there's any like really bad tier 3, tier 4 picks. There's going to be mostly, you got to see most of them in the tier 1, tier 2 kind of thing. But so like the Fei, Gadget is just always like a kind of mid lane that can be always really good. Like, she's actually someone that can be relatively safe. Like, I think the safest mid laner in the game has always been like a Gideon, but I feel like Gadget comes close to second in that regard because of her passive and just being able to have a lot of tools to be able to like kind of outrun the people and survive long enough to kind of get back to safety. So not only her lane phase has always been kind of solid, she's a huge kind of nuisance with her Q, but also like she's also really good in those team fights. Her ultimate is a very big tool for when you come in to fight this big objective, especially the primal, which is very important objective to secure. So being able to use her ultimate well will make her a very scary mid laner. So she's always been a very good mid lane pick. Alright, next up is Gideon, and he's actually going to be a T1 pick. I think he's one of the best mid laners in the game right now. It's because like he has access to probably one of the best mage items, and that is True Silver Bracelet. That item is honestly like really strong, maybe a little too strong, because it's a CC immunity shield. So it's not only like the CC immunity is huge because every time you cast your ultimate, essentially you're gonna always get CC immune kind of shield, because there's a lot of quests where you can get CC immunity briefly, but a lot of it is just either like you use it and then it's just kind of like done and over, or like it has a long cooldown. Like think about Liberator for ADCs, it's on a long cooldown, whereas a True Silver Bracelet, you're gonna have it up at almost every team fight as long as you just use your ultimate pretty much. So it's really strong to the point where you can see other mages use it very well. Like a gadget, you can do a very annoying kind of tinkier gadget build that works out really well. I think just the problem is True Silver Bracelet gives you too many good viable stats. Like it's just the shield, just being able to absorb damage and be CC immune. That's a very strong all-in-one kind of passive. Also has some health, it has magical power, it has a little bit of everything. So maybe they had to make it even more defensive, like try to knock down the magical power, or they had to like look at it, because I think it's starting to become the item kind of like the old Sky Split, where it has a little bit too much of everything, and I think True Silver Bracelet it's a little bit too valuable right now, and Gideon is one to take the most advantage of it. But even outside of that, his ultimate is again very scary. I would say his ultimate is probably better than the gadget, because the trade-off is that he has to be in people's faces, which can be more easier to shut down or makes him more vulnerable. But with the True Silver Bracelet, you totally negate all of that. You can go and really hand with the Gideon ultimate. Next up is Grux. So this is a pick that's gonna probably be more on the interesting side, but I think he's gonna be a matchup dependent, because this is one of those picks where, and like probably like in the more average or lower elo, I think he's actually gonna be a very good pick. But as you go higher up on the MMR ladder, you start to see him fall off. Like he's like not terrible, he's just very easy to punish or kind of outmaneuver, because Grux is a very slow rhino. He's very easy to kind of juke, he's very easy to outspace because his range is very predictable. Like a Crunch's range can be quite variable, like you can double RMB for the max, or you can just RMB. So you always have to be kind of careful with the Cruncher round in the 1v1 scenario, because he can really get on top of you if he really wants to. Whereas Grux is like, he may really want to fight you, but he doesn't necessarily have the tools to actually engage. And once he even is on top of you, you can just do a fair amount of blink out there and you're totally out of his range, and Grux cannot catch up anymore. And I think it's because of that, and the fact that he's actually very squishy early game. Like he's very easy to kind of punish, and it's very easy to respect his early game threat. And if you can respect his early game threat and just farm up, you can usually outscale him most of the time. Like a Cruncher can outscale him the 1v1 once Cruncher is 6. Counts can really outscale him and shred through this rhino. A lot of offlaners can really outscale a Grux, and it's just a matter of like, even if they can't match the scaling or beat him the 1v1, as soon as one other person show up, they can easily take down Grux very easily. So he's very fun in the offlane. He's good, he's decent in the jungle, but does the other jungle all way better picks and way more consistent with the game. So I think he's just more of a matchup dependent in my opinion. Next up is going to be Howitzer, and he's going to be a tier 2 pick. Again, he's always been kind of a solid mid lane, so he's not as great as in objective team fighting as like a Gadget or a Faye, but his 1v1 potential is very good. He's very good at getting like picks off, like his E can really displace and really offer picks, whereas these two are more so good for like poking. He can really like displace like an enemy AC towards him, for example, with his E, so he's someone that probably not as good of a mage once the big team fights happen, but before that, he's very good at poking people down and looking for really good favorable picks. And he's just a very safe mid lane gen. His ultimate is very good at bursting down people and makes him very safe, and really can delay like people shutting him down and giving your team more time in those team fights to focus on the other people. Next up is going to be Kalai, and she's also going to be a tier 3. She's going to be a matchup dependent. She's actually not that bad. Like the new assassin changes, item changes, makes her really good. Like almost to the point where she's back to the good old Kalai days where she can really 100 the seal people really easily. I just see her more as a matchup dependent because she's a very kind of squishy jungler. So sometimes in certain matchups, if you have like a crunch off lane, for example, deck of support, your team comp is going to be very squishy, not really solid frontliner. That's when you probably don't want to do like a Kalai kind of thing. But other than that, she's also someone that really relies on snowballing early. If you really fumble the early game, it can really be hard for her to kind of catch back up kind of thing. But she's also someone that can be kind of easily invadable. Like Chimera can really invade her, give her a run for her money. Rampage can really just stay on top with the Q and E kind of stuff. So it just really depends on what you're kind of going against, your team comp, also the enemy team comp. But I think in those certain matchups, I think she can really shine a lot, in my opinion. So I think she's definitely can be a tier 2 pick from time to time, but I think most of the time she's going to be matchup dependent. Next up is Chimera. It's also going to be matchup dependent, in my opinion. It's so weird because he's not like a bad jungler. It's just he sort of suffers the same problem as Grux, where he's very easy to predict. Like he's a very straightforward kid and very easy to outmaneuver. So it's also still very good in the like 1v1s. His 1v1s is still very good, and he also have good objective taking power with his passive. And it's kind of weird. Like he's almost a tier 2 pick in my head, but I think there's just better junglers in right now. Like even the Crunch, who's more of a like a off-laner in my book, he's still a way better jungler than Chimera, in my opinion, of course, because both of them excels in the 1v1s. I think Crunch has that advantage of being able to how do I say it, not be as predictable as a Chimera. Like she can really engage if the Crunch wants to. He has like the CC for the ganks and all that. And he just, like I said, he's always been very good in like the 1v1 matchups. I don't think Chimera has that same luxury. Like I think he can get sort of shut down by other junglers. Like a Grux can actually shut him down. It's a little weird. I only pick Chimera depending on what your team has and what the enemy team has, because I think he's also his early game clears are not that strong. It always bugs me, his early game clears. It's not as good as compared to other junglers. Like I always feel like Rampage has way better jungle clears. I feel like Crunch has faster early game clears. And it's just like you have to build Overload, I think, early on to be able to actually have decent jungle clears, but that can also kind of gimp your damage a bit in your early game, which is the most important time for Chimera to really start to snowball. Next up is going to be Lieutenant Belica. She's going to actually be our only T4 pick. So everyone else is going to be in the T1, T2, T3 pick, because I really think that everyone currently is can do good a lot of times. But I feel like Belica, unless you have a very specific purpose for picking her, I wouldn't recommend picking her, because she's not the best mid lane pick. She's not the best support. She's sort of a jack of all trades, but she's never really excel in one particular area. Like she's supposed to be that one mage that's supposed to counter other mages because of how her E works and how her ultimate can execute people based on their missing mana, but she doesn't feel like she does as amazing job as I would like. I feel like she doesn't really offer that much on the table kind of thing. Like her son's always really good, but I feel like her damage like potential like outburst kind of thing, it's just compared to other mages really doesn't feel that great. Maybe this is maybe some of my bias coming in for this pick, but I feel like most of the time in the solo queue environment, the other mages gonna be a lot better picks all around. Now I do know that Belica has seen very interesting usage in the more community kind of tournaments where they pick a support, and she's used to be at a very aggro support and be able to really hammer in the dual lane early on, and she does very good at that. But this is like a solo queue kind of environment I'm kind of talking about, and I feel like outside the tourneys, I think she's not gonna be as kind of high up on the tier list in my opinion. Next up is going to be Murdoch, and he's actually going to be a tier 2 pick. So he's not the best ADC, but he's a very solid ADC. You can't go wrong with him. He's like the same day jungler. He's someone that can kind of stay safe. He can push back people. He has a lot of self peel for himself, and he has the global ultimate, so you can use it to kind of snowball on his own, like across the map. You don't have to leave lane to get kills. You can get kills by staying in your lane by using your ultimate kind of thing. So really can't go wrong with him, but I think the jungle can outshine him a bit more, and one ADC can definitely do that as well. Next up is going to be Mario, and she's actually going to be a T1 pick. I think she's one of the best supports in the game right now. She got those buffs a while ago where not only her shields feel better, but her ultimate is on a lot lower cooldown, and she's a huge kind of menace now, I would say. Like before, her early game was her biggest struggle, but now that they changed around the numbers a lot, her early game doesn't feel that bad anymore, to the point where she can be a huge harassment to the enemy duo with being able to poke people down with the passive Q and whatnot. And then of course the shields is very good upon the ADC, because the ADCs allow the ADCs to go for an aggressive trade. She shields them, all that good stuff. Enemy ADC takes a bit stronger damage, and the shields on your ADC absorb a lot of that trade. So she's gonna be very good at doing quick trades, maybe not as good in the all-ins like a Victor Pool. It's gonna be very deadly kind of thing for almost a guaranteed kill. I don't think Mary has that like guaranteed kind of kill pick, but the fact that she can keep her ADC safe and her shields just really be able to do really good consistent favorable trades makes her a huge menace. And not only that, just her ultimate is really good right now. Being able to really have huge presence on the map, being able to go anywhere with your ultimate is huge for being able to stop certain lanes from getting out of control. Next up is gonna be not bad. She's actually gonna be a great pick. You can never go wrong with a drummer boy. His heals has always been really good, so he's always a very consistent support, because most of the time all you need to do is just have good uptime on your E. You can keep everyone healthy and hardy kind of thing. And his healing mid-late game is actually really good, especially when you do like Primal Fainter that does a lot of damage. His heals can really keep your team's like health bars very healthy, and as long as people don't die off too quickly, you're gonna get a ton of value from his healing. But not only that, he's very good in the snowbally kind of death ball comps where everyone just groups together and run people over. He's like one of the best supports at doing that, following people and all that good stuff. Next up is gonna be Rampage, and he's actually gonna be one of the best junglers in the game in my opinion. He's always been like one of the best junglers for a long time now. I think even at the start of Season 1, maybe Kalai outshined him the first months of Season 1 of Early Access, but I think in terms of the most time in Early Access Season 1, I think Rampage is the best prime jungler. It's because like there's no other junglers that can fit the same role as good as he does, because he's a jungler that acts as a frontline tank. He can dive the enemy team. He can really have a lot of pressure on the team. But he's one of the best team fighting junglers in my opinion. And you look at the other junglers, we have Brooks, we have Kalai, we have the Chimera, we have Fei Mao, we have Punch. And then when you think about them in the team fighting environment, they're not as ideal. They're kind of easy to kind of just blow up. Because you stun them, and most of the time they can be dead, right? Whereas with Rampage, he can eat all the stuns up. He doesn't really care if the whole team focuses him, because he has a huge ultimate. He builds tanky items, and he still can do a lot of damage. And his gangster's always been very good with his rock stun and all that good stuff. So just the fact that he doesn't have another jungler that can take his spot. You see some people try to steal jungler, but Steel is honestly not that good of a jungler. But like it's just the fact that we don't have any other tank junglers make Rampage a very good pick, because he can honestly go into any team comp and whatnot. And it's just, if you look at also the tournaments as well, he's always a first pick or ban kind of champion. He's that like good, like you can never go wrong with the Rampage jungler right now, and that just makes him like one of the best junglers right now in my opinion. Next up is going to be Victor, and he's going to be a T2 pick. So he's someone that I would say he requires a little bit more skill. He requires a lot more skill compared to like a Narbash or Mayo, because a lot more skill shot with Lion. Like if you can't land your hooks, Victor can feel really bad, right? But the only reason why I still put him T2 is because all it takes is one good hook and like the lane phase, and all of a sudden, like whatever lead the enemy lane has on you gets just thrown out of the picture. Like it just takes one hook and you can win those early fights, one hook, and you can literally like win the game in the mid to late game. It's that good kind of thing. It's what's crazy. Like none of the supports, like that girl can like stun people, lock them down, just good for getting picks, but nothing beats getting pulled into an enemy team kind of thing by Victor, and then all of a sudden that one person is just very dead. So I put him the T2 for that, but he's not like a T1 pick in my eye, just because he is, like I said, relying on lane assist hooks, and I think he's also someone that also relies on how his team is doing this. If his whole team is behind, it can be kind of hard to hook someone in, because if you get a good hook in, your team may not be strong enough to actually follow up on that. So that's why I kind of put him the T2 pick right now. Next up is going to be Sevlog, and he's going to be a T3 pick. I really want to put him the T2 pick, because it really makes sense. He's a he's one of the best scaling offlaners in the game right now, and he's going to always be good in those team fights because he's a very good frontliner tank. He has a lot of good pick dive potential, unlocking down key targets, right? But the reason why I put him in a T3, and at least in the solo queue environment, is first off, the match lengths in solo queue environment can really fluctuate. Most average match times for me just goes around 20-25 minutes. And that is when Sevlog starts to come online. A lot of other offlanes can really come online a lot earlier than that and have a lot more earlier impact. With Sevlog, you have to be farming him, you have to get your stacks up, you have to be very selfish in the offlane before you can become a very potent champion and be able to make those rotations. And I feel like just because the match lengths have always been really short from my experience, it's really kind of awkward to play Sevlog, because you want to help your team trying to catch back up, but Sevlog is just not a great champion for that. If the games go on long enough, Sevlog is a very, very solid T2 pick, maybe in T1. But it's just a solo queue environment with the MR being really out of whack, that with people that probably doesn't even know how to take best advantage of Sevlog on the team, he just doesn't feel as good of a consistent performer, at least in my opinion. So I just feel like someone like Steel doesn't require farm. He can even be behind and do a lot of the same stuff as Sevlog. So that's just kind of like my opinion on him. I really want to put him T2. He's definitely a very, very good pick in the high tourneys going on, but I think in the solo queue environment for the most part, he's going to be kind of in the T3 for now. Next up is going to be Spell, and she's actually going to be a T2 pick. The ADC items, she can be very deadly, right? She's always been a really good hyper carry, and with the new item ADC exchanges, makes her even more deadly of a hyper carry. But I think the big thing that she doesn't have compared to the other like T1 ADCs, I would say, is the fact that her performance can be very like inconsistent, because you have no self peel for yourself. So like Drongo, Murdoch, and even Huntress, which we're going to be going over shortly, they have a lot of good self peel for themselves. They can play safe in the laning phase, and it's very important to be able to have a kit that can help you survive the laning phase, because you never know if you're going to get constantly camped in like the dual lane, right? And someone that constantly camps is Sparrow can really make her like very sad, right? So again, she kind of like the Sevlog thing. Well, as the game goes on long enough, she can really outscale these other ADCs. But the problem is a lot of my matches doesn't go on that long in the solo queue environment. So because of that, I don't think she's like bad like a T3. Like ADCs are just honestly really kind of busted this patch. So she's not like a T3 kind of pick, but she's not like a T1 either. So I think she's a kind of solid. She's still a solid T2 pick. I think she still can be really, really good. It's just she's not gonna be a T1 pick because of just how easy she's be able to punish whatnot. And next up is gonna be Steel. He's gonna be a T1 kind of pick. Like he's a very honestly one of the best tanks in the offlane, but he's also very, very good in the support role. Like honestly, I placed a lot steals off lanes. It doesn't matter if you can bulldoze him to the ground and make him like have double CS, because his main thing at the end of the day is being a kind of frontliner for his team and be able to just go in hard and get good picks for his ultimate. And so he's just always been, he's gonna be always really good in team fights. He's very easy to kind of knock up multiple people, just really knock down. If there's one person your team needs to shut down, still is gonna be the best hero at doing that besides like an assassin. Like he's honestly a menace in team fights. Doesn't matter if he's very behind, he's gonna be very good still. Despite all that, he's also been a very easy offlane to play. So I think he's still one of the best tank offlanes in my opinion. Next up is gonna be Webnet. He's gonna be a tier 2 pick, and you can argue he's also a tier 1 kind of pick, right? But I don't want to put. I feel a little weird putting 3 ADCs in tier 1, even if the meta is kind of what that is. Like just the carry meta right now. But I think I'm gonna put him into tier 2 for now. You can make the argument it's tier 1, but I think he's sort of like. He sort of has some similar issues as Sparrow. Like both of them are scalers, but both of them are also very mobile. I think Webnet has a little bit more like early game kind of kill pressure compared to his Sparrow. He has a really good quick burst trades and whatnot. But I think at the same time, there's a lot of people that can really like get on top of him and kind of murk him. Like you think about all the assassins, you think of the Crunch. There's a lot of people like that can really like get on top of Webnet, and so like and when you do that at times it can be kind of hard to ult out, because if for example you get caught out by a Countess, you have no way to escape her if there's no other enemies around. So like in those big team fights where there's multiple like enemies around to like ult, you can probably be a lot safer and all that kind of stuff. But he doesn't have this. He's not like a Drongo, Murdoch, or like a KO that can kind of put space. Like once someone's on top of him, he's stuck with that one person. The only way he can get out is if he is able to bust him down before they bust him down, or there's another enemy he can ult that probably he can win the 1v1. But I think he's someone that needs a little time to scale, and you really could argue he's tier 1, but I think in my head, like based on how I see Webnet play by enemies and my allies, I'm not that impressed for the most part compared to the Drongo or like the other ADCs. So I'm just gonna put him tier 2 for now. Next up is Shinbi. She's gonna be a tier 3 pick in my opinion. Very sad because I'm a huge fan of Shinbi. She's always been really fun to play, very consistent, being safe in the off lane, and just I love assassins kind of thing. But I have to say she's a tier 3 pick right now, and that's because of the most latest kind of nerfs they kind of gave to her a while back, where essentially there's a lot more downtime on her E, and that's a huge deal because there's a lot more downtime for her to be punished. So a lot of like in the offline relies on trading cooldowns and whatnot, and the thing with Shinbi is her E early game especially feels very long cooldown. Like once she pops her E as an enemy offlane, you just literally just walk away. You don't fight her in the E, and then in the 10-11 seconds you have after her E is down, you can go on top of her and take very good trades. Because Shinbi really needs her E to make good trades, and when she doesn't have her E up, she's very vulnerable and she's at very long E cooldown. I feel like her cooldowns are very long. Her R&B has always been on a long cooldown. Q is not that long cooldown, but if you have two different abilities that are on long cooldown, that makes an assassin kind of easy to kind of punish. So I feel like she's more matchup dependent, like a Crunch, a Fei Mao. A lot of these offlanes can really like shut it down early. She can kind of outscale a lot of people, but she's not like a Countess where she can outmaneuver, kind of outjuke people kind of thing in the offlane. Even bad matchups counts have ways she can kind of play around it, where Shinbi, the only thing you can do in the Shinbi bad matchup is to kill from afar, and that's not like the best way you want to like. It doesn't feel that great. I guess I'm trying to say that. So she's kind of gonna be more matchup dependent, but in the right matchup she can really shine. Last but not least is Kiara, aka Huntress, and she's actually gonna be that second AC is talking about. That's a T1 pick. And that's because she kind of has a little bit of everything that makes what makes a very good ADC in solo queue. That is one, being having a safe early laning phase, so E is very good at disengaging from like ganks. Like if Rampage try to jump on you, kind of jump on you, just E backwards, walk towards tower, and you can be very safe with that alone. She's also very good at punishing people that gets on top of her. Usually ADCs don't like people on top of them, besides maybe Drongo and his gas grenade. But at Kiawa with someone on top of her, she doesn't mind as much actually, because think of it, the Chimera jumping on the Kiawa, right? All you have to do when the Chimera jumps on you is to use your ultimate and use your liberate quest so you don't get CC out of it, and all of a sudden the Chimera, whoever's on top of you, starts to take a ton of damage. So, like, Kiawa's ultimate is really strong. It can really shred through people. It can be easy to punish, it can be easy to CC alpha and silence all that stuff. But that's why you always go Liberator like almost every game with her. So when you do like want to ult, you can use that to like cleanse the CC, stop any CC from happening, so you can get a very solid ult off. So as long as your ultimate goes off very well, you're gonna be doing a ton of damage and make any melee people regret getting on top of you. But not only that, her early game is honestly very strong right now. Like you kind of see some of the gameplay videos already upload. Like all she does is she needs the first item like Lightning Hawk, and her damage burst is just a little bit insane because of her Vengeance stacks. However, Kira on B, she has very insane single target damage, and she's also honestly, even before that, she's also been really good in the prolonged trades, because of just how her passive works. You get max stacks off and get max staff Q off, you do a ton of damage. So I think she has everything that AC would love. I think the only thing she's missing is probably good wave clear kind of thing, but other than that, she is a very huge menace. Not too surprising, because she's the Meta Series' first original hero. You kind of want a hero that is very good on release, so you can kind of press people. It kind of feels a little slow if you release a really brand new hero and then she's very bad on release. So she may be a little bit too stronger intentionally, just make sure that she can actually be meta for a bit, and then Meta Series can go look at the numbers, tone it down a bit after people have done having fun with her. But anyways, I do realize it's a long tier list video, I apologize, but I think I did a decent job kind of explaining all the different heroes. Maybe in future videos I'll try to like shorten, be more concise. I just feel a little bit bad if I just talk only about 10 seconds about one hero, and that I don't feel like that does it justice. That's why I really hope we get public API, so I have kind of like a data kind of sheet to kind of look at. And so like if I want, instead of like explaining 5 minutes why certain hero is very good, I can just pull up the numbers, be like, she had the 56% win rate, and here's like 3 reasons, and be done in like 30 seconds. But without the kind of win rate data in front of me to be able to go over with you guys, I have to kind of explain a little bit more what's going on, at least in my opinion. But anyways, I really hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know down in the comments about the heroes, what other builds you want me to showcase. Let me know if you really guys enjoyed this video. This does take a lot of time and editing to kind of for me to try and make this, so I want to try and get more consistent with making tier list kind of videos. Maybe not every 2 weeks, because that's going to be a huge kind of hassle for me to deal with when I'm trying to make edit like gameplay videos with you guys all the time. But I can definitely do this after like the beginning of every big update. But definitely let me know if you guys really enjoyed this video. Thank you as always for all the amazing support, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.